It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer Fantasy, it's easy to learn the rules. Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington Show.
Welcome one and all, it's time for another red hot spicy sizzling edition, but also a bit of a cool, chilled, festive edition of the Andy and Rem Show, episode 188. As you can see from Santa in the middle of the screen, Christmas is almost upon us. Isn't that right, Remington? You're looking very... well, you're not actually looking very festive at all.
No, it's not Christmas yet.
Quite disappointed. No hat, no tinsel, no Christmas jumper.
Nothing yet, no.
Shall we call you Remington Scrooge for the evening?
I did buy a Christmas jumper and then I decided to take it back because I thought I'm only going to wear it once a year. So, there you go.
Well, there's plenty to sink our festive fangs into this week, thankfully. Lots of news. And I'm sure you've been keeping up with it as well, so you'll be ready to dive face first into it.
Oh dear, are you showing a picture of Curse City? Because I thought that disappeared from the shelves and was now a super rare collector's item.
Well, it was a super rare collector's item, so much so that people acquired numerous copies of it and were trying to sell them for extremely high prices. Some people may even have been holding on to them, so they'll increase in value over time. But now,
seems fair.
Those investments that people made, well and truly befouled, soiled by GW, as they have re-released Cursed City. So there it is.
Oh, well, there you go. But but there is going to be an expansion, apparently.
So let's see what it says here. The set sold out quickly when it was released. Many of you have been in touch to ask if it will be back. Today we can confirm that it will indeed rise again. Those of you that missed out the first time, this is your chance to get your hands at Bestial Claws on some of the best Citadel miniatures of 2021, which is a sentiment echoed by Remington, I'm sure, as well as the amazing cooperative Warhammer game. Look out for news on exact release dates. Yeah. So it is coming, and if that's not enough, it'll also be accompanied by expansions, plural.
Oh, right.
So there you go. And spoiler alert, Radukar isn't dead, he's just really, really angry currently.
I'm going to make a quick prediction. I think the expansion is going to have Radukar the Wolf in it. So, do you know what I mean? Rather than the separate figure, I think that's coming into the box, the next box. Who knows what else? Maybe there won't be many more figures. Don't know. What do you think?
Well, as an expansion, what do you expect as a bare minimum for a number of miniatures in each one?
Well, you get an awful lot of miniatures in this box set. It's taken me almost a year to get anywhere near painting it.
Well,
I've only got a few Gribblies to paint, but still, it's a big job.
Am I right in saying all the miniatures in Cursed City were completely original sculpts for that item?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
do you think we're going to see another batch of entirely new stuff in the expansions, or could we see some stuff recycled? Perhaps?
I think perhaps they could include some new zombies. So they could take some zombies from the recently Soulblight Gravelords, maybe get a few of them. You might see a giant bat. I can't think what else. I don't think there'll be a new hero, but you never know.
If they want to cheap out on it, then it could be mostly made up of stuff that's already out, but hasn't been in Cursed City before, and then maybe one completely new sculpt per expansion. New hero or a new evildoer of some kind.
Yeah, it might be a new vampire lord, maybe.
The dream, of course, is that the expansion is populated only with new models representing the new area of the cursed city that you're entering.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if I don't think in the Soulblight Gravelords army you get swarms, so maybe they could add some rat swarms. Because they got models there for that, haven't they? So yeah, a lot of models to paint, man, and yeah, it's almost like you're starting a vampire count / Soulblight Gravelords army there, right? All you need is some maybe more skeletons, more zombies.
And
There
some
you're
lovely
there.
heroes, of course, for lots of different armies, actually, but mostly, I imagine, Cities of Sigmar would be able to take advantage of a lot of the heroes that you've got in there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to some more Cities of Sigmar. Okay, so each one of these characters in there could have their own little, you know, sub faction in Cities of Sigmar, right? Like the Templar Knight, we've got Witch Hunters. We've got the sort of Kislevite Royal Guard. We've obviously got wizards. I think they could go down that rabbit hole a bit. I mean, Cities of Sigmar needs some new love, doesn't it, Andy?
When I hear Cities of Sigmar, what I really hear is it's still like the vestiges of the old world, really, isn't it? So
Well,
it could do with updating.
It's either going to go three ways. One, it stays the same. Two, they add to it. Or three, they pull off expansions from it. So if there is some kind of new good dwarf faction, maybe the Cities of Sigmar Dwarden could go off into that. But I hear there's going to be a new Chaos Dwarf faction coming. Have you heard that, Andy? I've heard that on the grapevine. 2023, I've heard.
I have heard that. I think that's been circulating quite a bit. I haven't heard a time frame on it.
Excited about that, actually. Are you excited?
I am excited, actually, as a dwarf, long-term dwarf fanatic, and of course, playing abyssal dwarves in King's Force, obviously. Chaos dwarves be definitely right up my alley.
I mean, do you think there'll be a slant on them? Like all the factions we've had, new factions. There's always a slant on them, right? So you've had the dwarves, you've had the Caradron overlords, right? You've had the sort of fire slayers. They're not just straight up dwarves. So when the Chaos Dwarves comes out, do you think they'll just be straight up Chaos Dwarves? With foot soldiers and gunmen and all that like they used to, or do you think there's going to be a twist to them?
I think there will definitely be a twist, but I don't think it'll be something drastic like now they're all half pigeon. Because if you think about it, things that you would associate with Chaos Dwarves, fire, lava, that kind of stuff, that's very much Fire Slayers territory. So it'd be interesting to see how they actually differentiate them from the old Chaos Dwarves. I think they will. It'd probably be more reminiscent of how the Lumineth Realm Lords, what they are to High Elves, maybe the new faction will be to Chaos Dwarves. So it resembles them pretty much. It's just everything is slightly more over the top.
Now, Andy, one of my favourite models in the Cursed City box is the Paladin, the Foot Knight lady there. And just looking at her in the picture there, you just think, how come there isn't a unit like that in Age of Sigmar? You've got the Zweihander handle. Can't even say it. The two-handed swordsman, right? But even in Bretonnian armies, you never really had foot paladins, did you? Foot knights. I'm surprised that hasn't really made the grade. I mean, you could say Stormcast are like that, but they didn't have to go to Stormcast. They could have gone to these foot knights, which look amazing. But there you go. That's just me. There's some juice there, though.
I think one thing that strikes about just quite a few of the heroes in this city is they look a bit more down to earth than some of the factions, particularly Stormcast. A bit more gritty and believable. The aesthetic of this game, I think.
Oh yeah, big time. If there was such a faction as Witch Hunters, right? Do you think it could merit a book, or do you think it's too small? Do you think it would be a sub faction within Cities of Sigmar, or do you think it could have its own? So you'd have Witch Hunters, you'd have mercenaries.
Maybe it'd get a White Dwarf update, because they seem to like doing that occasionally. Not that I've ever followed any of them, because I don't think I've owned a copy of White Dwarf for many a year now.
But it could be pretty fun though, right? I mean, in more time, you've got Witch Hunter faction, so you've got the sort of mercenary guy, you got guys, you got flagellants, you've even got like ogres, and you could have packs of dogs. Could be quite interesting. Witch Hunter, sort of different kinds of witch hunters, some kind of fire, fire wizards as well. It could be kind of cool. I'd like to do that. I was hoping, they could even bring back the altar of Sigmar as well as a sort of a centerpiece, right?
So before we move on from this topic, anyone in the chat who wants to point out anything that they're hoping to receive for Christmas or anything that they're buying for themselves around the festive season? I saw that Raphael has just bought an Abyssal Dwarf army for a project for next year, clearly inspired by mine, no doubt. Anyone following my footsteps is bound for stardom, certainly. So, final thing on Cursed City. Do you feel that your ownership of the original run of Cursed City is somewhat cheapened by it coming again? Did you feel like part of a special exclusive club, the fact that you had it when so many didn't?
Well, I don't want to sound selfish, Andy, but yes. But what I think they could have done is have that as a first edition, so it has some sort of like cult value, like a second print, first printing of a book. I don't know if there's any way that I could prove that, but that would be kind of cool. It would keep the collect, but then give the people who didn't get a chance, their turn to.
I'm surprised if there isn't a way of identifying the first prints. I'm surprised that they haven't on that route, really. The only thing that's really comparable is when they reprint some of the really old books. Like they redid the what are the names of those massive Warhammer Fantasy books that they reprinted for a limited time?
I don't know.
Realm of Chaos or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you had an original, it was clearly distinct from the new ones.
Yeah, I mean, what could you do? You could just put a different picture on the front. That would be really clearly identifiable. Or there might be a bit of writing to prove that, or just something. It'd be kind of cool.
It would be nice, but I think their approach is to do the collector's version of things, isn't it? Where it's got an extra fancy cover on it.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, it's good. People a bit really gutted they couldn't own this. Have you ever tried playing it? I mean, I had a cursory look at how to play it on on the YouTube, or was it on Warhammer Plus? But yeah, it looks quite complicated. I need your help with it, Andy.
Yeah, we'll have to crack that open at some point, especially with it being hot news at the moment. That's guaranteed to draw in some clicks, isn't it? So Colin says, hoping for more Mantic Goblins for Christmas. The new Mantic Goblins are actually very nice compared to the old terrible Goblin infantry. The rest of the units were fine. The actual Goblins themselves were pretty poor, but they've been replaced now, which is nice.
Andy, I don't know if we covered it on the show, but did we cover you winning a tournament? Or was it Best Painted? It was last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, I got the Best Painted award, yes. That is correct.
Last week was a very eventful show, wasn't it? It seems like a lifetime ago.
It was. We did confirm that you're not, in fact, a billionaire yet on that show.
No, but for a minute or two, I was, I had 4.9 billion in winnings. Yeah, anyway, next, let's move on.
So before we move on, in fact, on that topic, as a kind of crypto novice, if you will, when you see that your coins are suddenly worth billions, I assume that there isn't some facility built in there where you can immediately just cash them out. Does it all rely on somebody else coming along and actually buying them off you at that price?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. But there's I mean, okay. For instance, I think was it yesterday or today? Just in the crypto world, there was $200 billion of trades going on. It's almost, I think it hit its peak at over the value of all crypto was something like 2 trillion.
So here's a hard-hitting question for you then.
There's always buyers and sellers.
Can you explain how it's not a pyramid scheme?
Not a pyramid. Well, what?
Because if you're relying on the next person coming in paying a higher price than you paid for the coins, and for them to make money, the people coming in after them have to pay more.
They don't have to pay more. Just depends on what the given value is at that time. And that
If they want to make money, though, if people want to make money out of it, isn't it essentially just a pyramid scheme?
No, I don't think so. You've got a token of value there, so it's like a coin. Is money a pyramid scheme? Is Games Workshop owning anything a pyramid scheme? You might argue it is. I don't think it is. Someone tried to sell me a pyramid scheme, pyramid scheme once, and it was to do with I think it was cleaning products, and they wanted me to get my work to start buying the cleaning products. And then I realised it was a pyramid scheme. But I went to one of the meetings, and the way they pitch it is like you go in there, and there's a guy there, and he shows you all these pictures of these holidays that you could be going on while people are selling your cleaning products.
Yes.
Except the person that sold you the cleaning products is getting a kickback, and then the person that sold them is getting a kickback. So it's not a pyramid scheme. It's not a pyramid scheme from that sense.
Colin says all money is a pyramid scheme. It's all numbers on a screen. So yes, that there's a case that can be made when there's nothing tangible really changing hands. It is kind of like.
Well, yeah, that's you could argue that some crypto is pyramid scheme because there's no intrinsic value behind the coin, but it depends what it is. If it's something like Dogecoin or Shiba Inu, there's no value. It's the value, I suppose they would argue, is it's a community coin, and it could be used for something in the future. But I don't really buy those sort of things. So the things I buy are part of ecosystems that do have value. So let's say, I don't know, do you use Steam, right? Well, you
Yes.
earn Steam tokens or Steam points when you buy a game, right? Or you achieve a certain thing on a game and it rewards you. And then when you've got a bunch of these Steam tokens, you can use them for discounts on games, or you can transfer them to people. It's exactly the same. That's a good analogy. So you could argue, yes, it is just a picture on a screen or numbers, but it does have value if someone else thinks it has value and they're willing to trade it.
Okay. Speaking of valuable things, 2021 miniature of the year on the Warhammer community. They want you to vote for which one you think is the spiciest. So, let's have a look. We've got. Let's just rate them out of 10, shall we, as we go through them. Let me get the bigger versions up here.
Hold on, what are we doing? Is these the best models, but best Games Workshop models?
Yes,
of the
these are all
year?
the ones that were released over the course of a year. And let's have a look at some of the previous ones first.
Okay.
So, Magnus the Red there, Mortarian. Seeing a bit of a theme here.
Yes, Primarchs, right?
Right, similar looking as well. Then Noise Marine 2018, so a bit of a departure there.
Does this tell you that, it's 40k?
It could well do.
Okay.
Add in the Despoiler 2019, and then 2020
Yeah.
Gaskell Thracker. Yes, it's very 40k themed, isn't it? So, if
Yeah.
we look at them all here, we've got some Necron dude. We've got Sigvald. We've got this thing whose name I've forgotten. What's the name of this Realm Lord's miniature with the bow? I can't remember what it's called. Then we've got Be'lakor. We've got this vampire. We've got this Sisters of Battle thing. Can't remember the name of that either. We've got Yndrasta. We've got a 40k Deathcore miniature.
Deathkrieg.
Deathcore of Krieg.
Yeah, I love them models.
Got this giant 40k squig-like beast.
Love that. It's like a giant shark squig, isn't it? Great white.
Got Bastion.
Boo.
We've got this 40k dude. whose name I've also forgotten, and then we've got the new dragons.
I think he's a Black Templar for November, I'm going to say. Because I've been listening to quite a lot of 40k lore. There's some really good channels for that. Some amazing voiceovers. And they seem to, Jim W doesn't seem to shut those ones down. So, yeah, some really cool stuff.
What would get your vote here, though, out of these 12?
Well, let's look at May's entry. And it's the sort of vampire lord that's the sort of weird mix between an amazing model at the top and just something ridiculous on the bottom.
Yes.
It's like they've stuck a vampire lord and melded it into some kind of terrorgeist thing. I don't know. Maybe I need to see it in real life, but it's never really convinced me, that model.
Out of
What
all
do
of
you think?
these,
I'm surprised.
out of all of these, the one that probably captured the imagination people the most, in my opinion, could well be Yndrasta. Summing up the new Stormcast aesthetic, and it's the kind of feathery wings that we hadn't seen on the Stormcast before. Normally they had those really pointy ones, way less detail going on them.
Well, Andy, you painted it, didn't you? So
yes, it's very enjoyable to paint. The base is really interesting as well. So that may get my vote. I do really like Bastion as well. I enjoyed painting him, but he doesn't have as exciting a base or wings.
Well, Raphael, hey Raphael, he says the Black Templars, the November entry, which is Helbrecht, is the best this year, according to Raphael. I think from this distance, he looks like a Chaos Lord, doesn't he? Could be a Chaos conversion, no problem. That. Yeah, I mean, look, Sigvald looks amazing, right?
Yes.
January's is a bit meh. I like the Death Corpse of Krieg. I wouldn't say that's the best model, but maybe that line of models could argue is pretty good. The Savage Orc, the 40k Savage Orcs, they amazing. Really like them. I'm surprised. Personally, I think the Witch Hunter from Curse City is amazing.
When was that released?
That was, I'm gonna say, March or April. I might be wrong.
You sure it wasn't last year?
Was it last year?
I'm not sure. It may have been.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Then that would be disqualified.
Yeah, what do you think of March though? Because that's kind of little bit of sort of kung fu kind of lore, kind of Chinesey fantasy.
It's all right. that whole faction, really that whole faction hasn't really captured my imagination, to be honest.
No, I mean it's been bundled in with the sort of new high elves, hasn't it? That could have been its separate faction, couldn't it?
We're going to the vote page now because there's even more to choose from. Apparently, look at that.
Oh, here we go. That's more like it.
Look, you can't even see pictures of them all, but look how many there are to choose from.
Dominion Crawl Boys, bottom there. Middle Earth. That's not going to win, is it?
So there's Death Guard. There's Primaris, all kinds of stuff. There's Hedonites of Slaanesh, all those releases. There's a load of Space Marines.
What about Glutus from the Hedonites, the guy in the palanquin?
Glutos is on there, yes.
That's up there.
That's definitely in with a shout, I would say. But oddly, not on their preview screen there. I think they just wanted to show a variety. So lots of Lumineth stuff.
Do you think they put the preview ones there as in, like, they want to sell more of those?
I don't know. It'd be interesting to find out what decision making went into that.
Got the red gobbo and bouncer, and I haven't. He's my next model I want to paint, so I'm holding him up to the camera.
So I'm going to look and see. Because apparently, Cursed City heroes are an option in there. So nice. Where is that? I just missed it. There's so much text here with no pictures. But if Cursed City heroes are on here, oh, there we go. Cursed City heroes is just one choice. That's all it says.
Yeah, well, I'll give them that then. Yeah, Cursed City villains.
Which one would you go for, heroes or villains?
The villains are pretty good, but I'd go for heroes. Yeah, go for the heroes. They're cool. Yeah.
Anyway, look at this. What's going on with GW? In fact, hold your horses just a second, because
Remington's Millions.
There we go. Now you can talk about it.
Yeah, December's been a devastating month for smaller cap, mid cap stocks in general. Seeing a lot of red, and money has been hiding out in the big tech companies like Apple, Microsoft. But as December comes in, especially in America, people are using their losses in things like stocks and selling them at a loss and writing that off against their tax, which is legal in America. So you write off your tax, you sell your losing investments, and then you buy back in January when everything's cheap. So, November, December has been very, very difficult. And it's not just half a Games Workshop. There's a lot of companies suffering, with Omicron fears and inflation fears and uncertainty about 2022, a slowdown in the economy, supply chain issues. Of course, China, we know about that as well. All those factors have come into play. But James Workshop saw a slight bounce because its lows last week went down to £88 a share, which is quite devastating when its high was at £121. It's quite a big, in just 2 months it went down there. But we've seen a bit of a pullback, and I think yesterday, when everything was going down a lot, Games Workshop was going up and hit £100 a share again.
Well,
But it's cooled down a bit. So I think perhaps it's the Omicron and shutdown fears, and like people think Games Workshop stand to benefit if people are stuck at home.
do you want to know what I think is the main factor?
Go on.
I think they've heard that we're going to be playing a game at Warhammer World this week.
You bugger. Really?
I think that's the truth behind it.
So RemCon is coming back.
RemCon and Andy Palooza hitting Warhammer World at the same time has sent their descent into an ascent.
So if you had been canny enough to buy a share or two last week, you would be up by over 10% in 1 week, which is pretty good in 1 week.
So, next. So what I'm actually going to do, because we have got a game coming up, I'm going to go through the Stormcast list that I've made this game. Just to give you a bit of a preview, I don't even know which faction you're bringing yet, so I can't have tailored it to that, because I know you've got Daughters of Cain, you've got Cruel Boys, you've got your Duardin forces, any of whom you could have been planning to bring along. Have you actually chosen already?
Well, I wanted to ask the audience, to be honest. I wanted to ask the audience because I don't know myself. I'm going to be novice at playing them all. I might be a little bit experienced if I bring my Gloomspike Gits. If I do bring the Gits, I'm going to bring some of the big boys. I'm going to bring the Trolls in to dish out some real damage because they was lacking some punch last game.
Well, how about we let the audience tell you what you should bring, which units you should bring specifically to counter this list that I've made. How about that?
Okay, well, the choice is Daughters of Cain, and we've done 3 battle reports using those, and I think I had a win, and then maybe you had 2 wins. Or was it a win, a draw? Can't remember.
I think you definitely won 1. Yes, you won the one time that I made a list specifically designed to destroy your army.
Right. So there's Daughters of Cain, very complex army for my little brain, but some really good killing power. Then we've got my Gloomspike Gits, which is a lot of fun. And they will get absolutely pummeled, whatever Andy brings to the table, but it'll be very colourful, very fun. Or my recently painted Cruel Boys. I do have 1,500 points worth, and I might have to cheat by not bringing enough battle line, simply because I don't have enough models. But if you want to see some Cruel Boys monsters in action, I've got the Dominion Cruel Boys box painted, with some monster gribblies to add to it, which could be a lot of fun. So they're the 3 choices. I've got a whole bunch of Cities of Sigmar, and I'm kind of like, do I bring them and bring Gotrek? That could be fun. So I'll let you decide from those 4 choices.
Yes, audience, let him know based on what you think will do well against the following. I'm not going to tell you which upgrades I've put on particular characters, so that'll be a surprise, but I can tell you that my Stormcast Eternals army, I've gone for the Hammers of Sigmar, which is the one that allows you to take Dracoths as battle line, and the leader of that particular subfaction being Bastion, so he's in there. The other heroes, we've got a Knight Incanter, spellcaster, and we've got the Lord Imperatant, one of the new models from Dominion. And of course his trick is that he allows a unit to deep strike in only 7 inches away instead of 9 away. Only one unit though.
It's
And
funny
then-
how you're obsessed with this deep strike business, Andy. Like literally with these Stormcast, just line them up and walk them forward. You'll still win.
Well, we'll see about that. Then for my battle line, I've got 2 Dracothian Guard Concussors and 5 Liberators. There's the battle line. And then other units, I've got 3 Ether Wings. I've got 3 Annihilators with Meteoric Grandhammers. And I've got 5 Retributors. So it says Hammers of Sigmar, and I've brought all the big hammer lads, basically. Concussors, the Annihilators, and the Retributors. All with their massive double hammers of doom. And Bastion, obviously, with his hammer. So it's all the hammers, all the time. And they are going to smash some Remington face. So anyone who thinks that one of those factions that Mr. Remington just listed there stands a decent chance against this list, make a suggestion in the chat or in the comments if you're watching this after. Got a couple of days for the game. And let's see what people are saying.
Right, let's look in my box, Andy. Because this is my Cruel Boys. In this box, I've got a bunch of Hobgrop slitters, who are literally going to be cannon fodder, I imagine. And yeah, they're just going to be a big road bump. Andy, look how small they look on the camera. That's those guys. I've got a bunch of the basic Cruel Boy guys. Don't know if you can see those. Got a bunch of those. You can't see how beautifully they are painted. So that's the boring stuff. I've got like a wizard. I've got a hero. This might be nice.
By the way, don't you have a
What's this?
sub-faction available to you that allows you to take the Bolt Boys as battle line, in which case you would have enough?
What about those? Like that big thing. Take down one of Andy's dragons.
Is that the Beast Skewer?
That is the beast skewer. And now for the interesting stuff. This guy, they've got to bring him. He's like, that's my model of the year actually. That one, really fun to paint. Wouldn't you like to see him bash down some of those golden armored boys into the ground? And then we've got this big beast catcher. Is it beast catcher something? That could be fun. Yeah. Andy will be going for that one for sure, but that could be fun.
We've got lots of votes for the Cruel Boys so far, by the way.
Yeah, I think I might be taking the Cruel Boys then, Andy. And then I've got this guy, which could be, I could sub him in for the big wizard on the buzzard.
That is true.
But yeah, if the magic's a bit complicated for my little brain, I might just make him a sort of a fighting hero.
Well, what you normally do is decide that you're going to bring a really simple list, and then you go and throw in like Underworld's warbands with their ridiculous 5 models, and each one has 8 different special rules unique to them that you have to remember, and they all activate at different times, each rule. So if you can avoid that, we might actually be able to finish a game in decent time.
Yeah, well, I haven't got those models, so yeah, it's going to be pretty straightforward. I think I'm going to walk forward. Andy's going to shoot a bunch down. Then a bunch of his Stormcast is going to appear behind me, kill off my big bosses, and then I'll have like 1 or 2 units left that will do a little bit of damage, but it will pitter out.
Well, I can tell you, I don't have any long-range shooting in this army. Apart from spells and Bastion's ability to just hit stuff. Feels like it, that's far away. But I don't have any bows, I don't have any crossbows.
Well, I don't think I have any super bad things, but I've got ways of dishing out mortal wounds, which is crucial.
Yes, it is. You definitely want to be doing that against Stormcast. So, let us know, folks. What should Remington be bringing to the fight? have a look at this then. So, Battle Scroll. What is Battle Scroll, you may ask? Well, apparently, it's the new way they're going to be updating Age of Sigmar so that they can update the rules fast and concisely, so that the rules aren't spread across hundreds of different documents or pages, but one nice little place you can see all the updates in one go. And how could that be a bad thing?
Why didn't they think of that before?
So each battle scroll will feature new rule tightening and fine-tuning, with improvements coming to factions that use a bit of a boost. So these rules will be in effect at all Warhammer Age of Sigmar events. So does this mean that they're actually releasing physical media here, actual little booklets that you're going to be expected to own the latest one of if you're going to be attending any events? Is that right, or is it entirely online? It does say download battle scroll here. So they do actually tell you some changes, I think. Let's have a look. So, Kragnos, the big bad boy. He hadn't really been living up to his name, but now he's got a 6+ ward save.
Okay.
So that's a bit better, and also he's got more abilities now. He's got... can't be slain by a single spell or ability now. So anything that says, like, remove this model, then he can't be affected by that. I think that's the same for Gotrek, isn't it?
Something like that.
Yeah, I think so. And also he allows destruction units to charge 3d6 when they're next to him.
Wow, that's big.
Very nice. And then there's some updates to Nagash here. So let's have a look. Allowing friendly death units to add 1 to their ward rolls with a command ability. Sounds good. And Archaean. So a lot of these things I thought they were already powerful, but apparently they need to be improved even more. So Archaean can use his abilities with all chaos units now, rather than just slaves to darkness. That's cool. And so there are some things that have come up in the new FAQ, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Changes to Unleash Hell, for example.
Okay, that'd be interesting.
So you'll be interested to hear about that.
What do you think that might entail?
Well, I can tell you in a minute, because they have actually released those changes.
Now, let me guess. Heroic Recovery, you should only be able to do that once per battle, per model, or even just once per battle. You know what I mean?
Well, let's have a look. So, in the Errata, heroes and heroic actions. So, change to the Heroic Recovery rule. Pick one friendly hero more than 3 inches from all enemy models and make a Heroic Recovery roll by rolling 2d6. The roll is less than or equal to that hero's bravery characteristic. You can heal up to d3 wounds allocated to the hero. So, it sounds like the change there is that you now have to be away from the enemy. You can't do it if you're in combat.
So you used to be able to do it when you're in combat? I don't think...
That's my recollection of it. You could do that, but you couldn't do rally. Couldn't bring models back. I think you could do Heroic Recovery.
Yeah, rally, you couldn't be in combat. So, Heroic Recovery. Interesting that. So, if you're locked in combat, you kind of, you're going to get bogged down. You got to get out of it, haven't you?
Yes. So you can't rely on that Heroic Recovery to keep topping up your wounds if you're stuck in combat. Which I think, if that's any change to the wording there, that's the only thing that I can think of from that paragraph. Then I think that's a good change.
You couldn't retreat and then make a Heroic Recovery, could you? Because retreating would be in the movement phase, no?
Yes, if you have some way to retreat in the hero phase, I'm not sure. I think the heroic actions might be at the start of the hero phase. So I don't know whether you'd be able to do that even then if you had an ability to move in the hero phase.
So it is useful if you're not in combat and you're getting shot at. Do you know what I mean? If your hero's just been pummeled with magic and shooting.
Well, if there's a hero that's really tough to take wounds off, but maybe doesn't have that many, so Heroic Recovery is actually a big deal to get D3 wounds back.
Yeah. Then
if you can tie them down in combat and stop them using that ability, then you can slowly chip away at them.
Yeah, that's bad for Stormcast then.
Potentially.
Right.
Certain heroes, yes. Maybe not Bastion, because he tends to get all his wounds back by killing a grot.
Right. But Yandrasta, that would be bad for her.
Potentially, yes.
Right, what's the charge value?
So, Unleash Hell. So,
Yep.
you will recall that previously, Unleash Hell was that if an enemy unit finished its charge move within 9 inches of a unit, it could then have a free shot at them, basically.
Yep.
Now it has to be within 6 inches of that unit, which means it's more likely to be only the unit that you're charging that can Unleash Hell.
Yeah. So if you had a unit of dwarf with guns, and then you had a unit of dwarf fighters, I charge into the dwarf fighters, and before, your gunman might have been in range to unleash hell.
Yes, whereas now if they want to do that, they have to be closer to do it, which
I think
puts
that's
them
good.
puts them in harm's way, and you can't cover as many units with the same. Think of a really dangerous thing to unleash hell with, like a blob of 20 iron drakes or something.
Yep.
Then you wouldn't be able to keep them at a safe distance now, while also covering your entire battle line.
I think that's fair. What do you think?
I think that's probably a positive change, and it's arguable that Unleash Hell was a very powerful ability. It's probably gonna hurt my Caradron Overlords more than many of our other armies.
Unleash hell is good if a hero is charging you. It's just like literally one figure unit.
Unleash Hell is still really good. It just means that you can't have a unit covering as many of your other units with its Unleash Hell ability. You have to actually be close to do it now. It's still good, you just have to think about it a bit more.
Got ya.
And then other changes that affect anything that we've encountered so far.
I do like the heroic recovery one, Andy, because you're not going to be able to do that many times in one battle for a particular model, because you'd like to think your model's going to be in combat to actually make a difference, right? For at least half the battle.
Yes.
So when would they be doing the recovery? Maybe in the last couple of turns?
Heroic recovery now is probably most beneficial in situations where you've got a character that's being whittled down by enemies shooting, which is something you don't really like anyway. You don't like heroes being shot off, do you? So you can still use it in those situations, just not when they're in the thick of the fighting.
Yeah.
So I like that. How about this one? So this is also going to affect heroes and their survivability as well. The Amulet of Destiny, which used to give its bearer a 5+ ward save, so everyone under the sun was using it in their army list. You barely saw an army list without the Amulet of Destiny. It's now a 6+ ward save. So now you're not going to see massive mega gargants with a 5+ ward save on their 35 wounds.
Yeah, I've just realised I was actually using heroic recovery loads in the battles we did for my heroes and the Amulet of Destiny. So back to the drawing board for me.
Well, the Amulet of Destiny, it was just too much of an auto include, I think, at 5+ ward save compared to all the other abilities that you had in there.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, some of the other abilities you get from artifacts are very situational, but the Amulet of Destiny was like, what you're always going to get a 5+ saves. It's a no-brainer.
And we saw a few occasions where you'll remember that game where I had the Amulet of Destiny on the Knight Azeros, and he just survived against half your army on his own, even though he's only got 5 wounds. Because I was using like Mystic Shield or what's it even called? Their Finest Hour, all those other abilities, and so you've got lots of ways to get their armor up. And then with that 5+ ward save as well, you found it very difficult to shift that one inexpensive character.
Yeah, I mean, look, if it's your finest hour, like that is your finest moment, isn't it? So you shouldn't be able to use these abilities more than once in a battle, I don't think.
Well, each hero can't use Finest Hour more than once, but you can have everyone enjoy their Finest Hour on different turns if you want.
Well, I think it'd be nice if you could just play those cards once.
So the other new stuff in here doesn't really affect us too much, or hasn't affected things that we've done, as far as I can tell on my glance through it. However, I did have a quick look at the Stormcast one as well, and the one thing that I'm not 100% sure on is the holy commands, because they're like extra abilities that you can just use in your army. And it says here you can always take one holy command enhancement for a Stormcast Eternals army. I'm not sure whether it counts as one of your enhancements. Like if you're entitled to one enhancement in your army, does the holy command count? Someone in the chat will probably know and tell me, just so I don't have to actually read the book myself. But that would be good to know, especially before we have a game.
I've never heard of Holy Command.
Well, we haven't delved in and used a lot of these extra, deeper rules yet in our games.
Okay,
So,
there was something about priests I just saw. Is that interesting?
it's anything that's not in this magenta colour isn't new in this errata, but there are some for the various different factions as well.
Okay.
So everyone should be diving in and looking at that to see if it affects their army. I didn't see one for Caradron Overlords though, which is kind of annoying because there are a couple of issues with that army that needed to be cleared up. If they haven't got one, people are still unclear about whether you're allowed to disembark and then fly away, or load into the ship and fly away under certain circumstances. It's a bit unclear, the wording on some of them.
I had my booster jabbed this morning. Starting to feel a bit weird.
Well, that is the case, I think, with quite a lot of these. Get a few mild symptoms for a day or so. I've got mine in about a week's time. Which one was it you had?
Well, my first two jabs were AstraZeneca, but the booster jab was a Pfizer. So I think, yeah, I did have 2 paracetamols afterwards. So maybe I need to have some more.
Well, hopefully it'll be out of your system and you'll be full speed ahead by the game later in the week.
To be honest, I've had to deliberately not paint anything for a week, at least a week or 2, because I've just been focusing on trying to play my guitar a lot, trying to get up to scratch with that. Yeah. So
I haven't done much painting either this week. What I did do actually was put some snow onto the Ironclad's base. That's looking a bit cool there, isn't it?
Yeah, nice.
Still got to paint the skulls and all the bones around the Azerite there, and then I've got to actually paint the thing itself. I've got a lot of the crew kind of to this stage, where there's a lot of blue and silver visible on them, but still plenty of work to do on those. So that is next on the block. Haven't been able to do too much painting or hobby stuff in general this week though. Okay, next. So this is the Advent engine, and a lot of them have clearly been 40k related. What do you think about this one? This looks kind of goat-like.
Yeah, now Andy, I've heard rumours of a sort of rehaul of Beastmen. I don't know when.
So you think this could be new Oof Warriors?
Well, I saw some speculation about the next 3 years. So I've already mentioned the Chaos Dwarves. Also read about Beastmen and also Ogres. Because most of the Ogre are rank and file sort of models and monsters are, over 10 years old now, aren't they? Maybe more.
If there are an entirely fresh, juicy batch of Beastmen coming, are you going to be all over it? Because you are a Beastman at heart, really, aren't you?
I sort of accidentally fell into the Beastmen, and when I started painting the Ungors, I started to enjoy just how detailed those and expressive those models were, even though they were really naff in the game. But yeah, I kind of got into them quite a lot, and I think you always want me to play them, and I had a decent they're decent. They played pretty decent, really. A lot of fun to play.
I remember before I signed you to an exclusive contract for this show, I remember watching you and Mr. Reef breaking down all the different Beastman units.
Yeah.
YouTube video. And you were really distressed by the terrible ambush special rule and how you couldn't attack anything on the turn you came in. It's a moment that stuck out for me.
Yeah, it was like, "Hello, everybody. We're just gonna wave at you. We're not gonna do anything." And then literally, we're gonna get killed before we can. Yeah, Total War Beastmen. Hey, Authentics. He says Total War Beastmen was good. I did play them for a bit. I found they were actually the hardest faction to play.
They have a really strange play style, don't they? Bizarre way to
Yeah,
expand compared to some of the other factions.
because it's so nomadic, and you've only got one main horde going round. You can easily lose the game really fast. It's harder to sort of build an empire like you can with the other ones. But yeah, most challenging. I'd like to say most challenging.
So if it is Beastmen, rest assured that you'll be right in there. Grunting, painting your hoofs, not shaving for a few weeks.
Yeah, we'll see.
Next, so what have I been doing today? Well, I spent 7 hours in the kitchen making cakes, and here is a big pile of cakes.
Okay. Have they got a like, sort of sell by date or eat by date before they go dry?
Well, I would hope that people would be eating them within a few days. I'm going to be desperately attempting to get them out to everyone that's entitled to some over the next few days.
Might that be your partner on this show?
Could well be.
I don't know.
See, because there's a lot of cakes, but there's also a lot of people on the cake list. And generally, it's something, you know how a lot of people just send like Christmas cards to someone that they don't typically send presents to?
Yeah.
If it's someone I'm not in like a present to present kind of thing situation with, then it's typically, here are some Christmas cakes rather than card for the most part.
Yeah.
Unless it's someone who's too far away because they don't really travel by post. But yes, lots of hours slaving away in the kitchen today.
Nice, Andy. Very creative.
And on the Discord server, the only painted miniatures that were posted on there this week were from Cedar, and these are for a game, the name escapes me, but it's apparently Napoleonic horror game. So,
cool, man.
historical miniatures with monsters. So yes, pretty cool. It's
Nice.
It's typical Cedar colours going on here. Lots of bright colours being used. Very bold schemes.
Andy, what do you call those big admiral hats? Why do you think they'll ever come back in fashion? Those things they don't seem to serve much of a purpose.
I don't think they'll come back in fashion.
Do you think if it's raining, then the water collects in the middle part, and you lower your head, and the water sort of drains out? I can't think of any other practical use for them because it's going to get in the way whenever you're walking through a door. Is it to look like more distinct than everyone else?
Don't know. Someone must know the name of them. Tricorner. Are they? They're not tricorners. The tricorners are the ones with the
Piracy ones.
The three corners, aren't they? And these ones are more. I mean, I can't tell from this angle if it sticks out of the other side.
I mean, they've got a lot of personality, that's for sure. But they're very
Is that what they're
weird.
called?
Cedar says it's a bicorn.
That would make
That
sense.
makes sense. So
Yeah,
a bicorn hat.
What do you think's going to come back in fashion sooner, the bicorn or the tricorner?
Well, you could make a bicorner, couldn't you? You just carve a round shape and fold it in half, don't you? And put like some blue tack at the top of it or something and stick it on your head. That bit too simplistic. Can't be that simple, can it?
Well, that could be the $1 million idea you've been waiting for.
Maybe I could do a range of bicorn and tricorn Remington hats.
Often the best ideas are the simplest ones.
Could restart some fashion ideas.
You could go into partnership with Blue Tack. Okay, next.
Wasn't they used in the American in the War of Independence as well? Did they have such hats?
They definitely had the tricorner hats, I think.
Right. Well, look.
You've been painting.
Think?
Well, not this week, but when were you painting? When did you finish all these?
Finished these last week. So the dwarf was the last miniature I painted, Also, my eyes are quite suffering bad these days. I was always a bit short-sighted. Now I'm really long-sighted. So I had my contacts in, and I literally cannot see anything close up when I'm wearing the contacts. And I don't know if you can get bifocal contacts. I don't know if you can do that, but my eyes are just getting screwed, man. It might be just winter's here and everything's so dark, but I'm
Or it could
just
be Father Time catching up with old man Remington.
yeah, there's certainly that, man. That's something I can't do much about, but I have managed to finish these models, so I'm pretty proud of them. I think they look as good as the Games Workshop ones. I think look a bit more rugged and realistic.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
What you say? Yeah.
Should we zoom in on the dwarf?
Yeah, zoom in on anything. Any. Oh god.
I think we may have already zoomed in on this guy
We
last time
did,
because
didn't
we had a
we?
look at that dial, didn't we?
Yeah, I've got to tidy up the red and yellow stuff around his thing. It doesn't look too bad. Why don't you zoom in on the Kislev guy? Because if you zoom in on Kislev guy's eyes, I made quite pains to make his eyes. Here you go, look at that.
Those are very central pupils.
I can't tell you how small that is, but I think that kind of looks kind of cool, man.
Eyes are one of those things. When it works, it really makes the model. But if it's even slightly off, then it can destroy the whole thing. If the miniature looks cross-eyed when it's not supposed to, then
Yeah, I just need to sort of maybe if I'm feeling brave and I've got plenty of light, I would just put some eyelids in there, and then it will look all right.
well, my top tip for painting eyes would be to do the eyes before you do the final stage of the wash on the flesh. Because that way it'll sink in around the edges of the eyes and kind of blend it in a bit. That would be my top tip.
Yeah. Well, what else can we zoom in on? Anything else there? Any other faces? I'm still pretty proud of this guy.
Let's zoom in on this.
Yeah, you can't see her eyes on that. What about the elf? Look at the elf. Oh my god, what a mess.
I'm not sure what's going on with the eyes. Are the eyes
No.
actually open? Is one of them
I don't know
open?
what's going on. I'll have to revisit that. God damn it, man.
Well, you don't have to worry about the eyes on these because obviously
No.
skeletons don't have eyeballs, as we know. They have eye sockets.
Yeah. These are fun. I like that blue on the flag. That's enjoyable. Yeah. I do like the flag's blue.
Very nice indeed. Colin says, I
Yeah.
cannot paint eyes. Yeah, if you can't do it well, it's one of those things that if you're not going to improve it, probably don't bother. Because miniatures with bad eyes look way worse than miniatures without the eyes done at all, in my opinion. There are ways to do it that are a little bit easier though. Like I said, if you put it on before the final stage of the wash, so it tidies up the edges a bit for you. And never do them once you've finished the skin. Because if you end up having to touch up around the edges, you're just going to ruin all the beautiful work you've put onto the flesh. So make sure that you're doing the eyes part way through the flesh process rather than at the end would be another top tip from me there.
Now I've got to say, Andy, these skeletons are really great models. Compared to the tomb, is it Tomb Guard? No, Grave Guard, who kind of look really out of date now because they're smaller than these skeletons. But the Graveyard are meant to be the elite ones. So yeah, these the skeleton sculpts are brilliant. How they've just used the sort of the motion of the wind in their clothing. Real nice, man.
Yeah, they kind of look like they're not using any unnecessary movements for posing. Everything they're doing is functional. Like if a skeleton is swinging its sword at you, they're not going to be using magic to like animate the whole body in a realistic manner. It's just going to be like leaning one way and blah. That kind of thing would be how I look at it. And you get that sense with these. It's like they're only moving what is necessary. So their heads are tilted to one side because why does the skeleton's head need to be perfectly upright at all?
Now, Rafael, thanks for your comment, Rafael. He says you can use these very thin pens to paint details like eyes, like the Faber-Castell Eco Pigment Fine Liner, 0.05 millimeter, or as previously advertised on the Andy and Rem show, the Remington Paint Pen.
Certainly
Sure.
can.
Yeah.
Authentic Studio says use a small brush with a whitewash. What I tend to do, I'm not bothered about getting like tiny fine point pupils, because I used to do it like that. And if you could get really fine point, it's okay, but they do tend to look a bit shocked and surprised, some of them, don't they? It's like,
Well, yeah, it depends on how big the model is, right? That elf head is really small. So it just depends how apparent the eyes are on the model.
what I tend to do now is paint white, and then paint like a black stripe almost down the middle, or to one side if it's supposed to be looking in one direction, and then take the flesh colour and just go over above and below it to tidy it up so it looks neater.
Yeah, I try not to use white. I use Ulthuan grey.
Mine tend not to look pure white when they're finished because I do the final layer of wash on the flesh after the eyes are done, so it does darken them a little bit. So pure white can stand out a bit much. I'll agree with you there. Okay, so Cursed City is back. GW stocks recovering. Those are your headlines for this week, folks. But the biggest headline, of course, is that there is a game this week between the mighty Stormcast Eternals, commanded by me, and probably the filthy, sneaky, dirty, swamp-dwelling Cruel Boys, sent into battle by Cruel Master himself, Remington Steele.
Yeah, they might. I might have to somewhat cheat a little bit simply because I don't have enough battle line, as you say. But
Well, I did
think
mention earlier. I think you can take a sub faction that allows you to take Bolt Boys.
Yeah,
as
I'd
battle
need more
line.
bolt. I'd need more bolt boys. I only got 3.
3 is
So
enough for a unit, though, so you'd have your 2 battle line units.
what would the other unit be?
The unit that's already battle line by default.
Ah, got you.
Yeah,
Oh,
so I
okay.
think you could have your 2 battle line, and that way, if we've got a scenario that requires battle line to score, then you're not just going to get destroyed immediately.
I've got you. Well, let's see what happens, man. Might be fun. Obviously, things depend on scenario as well, right?
Yes. So, table is
So,
booked at Warhammer World.
is it in the morning, 10 o'clock? If you're
Sure
around
is.
if you're around on Thursday, you want to come to see 2 legends of the game. You know, with amazingly painted models showing up the Games Workshop official paint jobs.
Yes, and if you want to stand
Come and join us.
if you want to stand a safe distance away to avoid any potentially dangerous virus particles floating towards us,
Yeah,
then that
I
would be
think
appreciated as well.
I think it might be quite busy in there. People, you know, a bit scared there might be a lockdown coming, so they might be getting in while they can.
That is
Of course,
true.
yeah.
I've been hearing rumours that there could be some kind of restrictions coming in immediately after Christmas.
Yeah, we were told that at my college where I teach, that we have to be prepared to teach online the week after we get back. So second week of January might be affected. Suits me because I can save a lot of money on traveling. So I'm fine with that. I can get a load of marking done too. But yeah, is there anything you want to get while you're at Warhammer World? Anything you?
I don't know. I don't think I'm particularly short of anything. I've got kind of a production line of things I want to paint when I finish this Ironclad. Then I've got some more Kharadron Overlords still in their boxes, waiting to be assembled. I don't think I really need anything at the moment, especially if I end up getting anything for Christmas to add to the paint pile as well.
I've got you. Well, like over the last few years, you've always managed to, when you go to Warhammer World, I'm sure there's some people here that haven't been able to, or they maybe live too far away. You always get a few things that you don't see anywhere else that are really sort of not officially limited edition, but you might find the odd metal miniature, you know, odds and sods that they found and they just put in the shop for sale. And
Yeah,
you
if
can
there's
find some
anything,
interesting things.
if there's anything that was on limited release, then there's a chance that there might still be some of them flying about at Warhammer World. There's a few things that are made specifically to be Warhammer World exclusives as well, some collectible items. So it's always, even if you're a Nottingham local, but Warhammer World isn't your local Games Workshop, if it's one of the other branches nearer to you, it's still worth checking out Warhammer World now and then, see if there's anything interesting.
And I did find some 80s or 90s metal Blood Bowl necromantic models there in its blister pack. I think I bought those. Or they might have just remolded a few for a special event or something. I think I bought a pack of those, and I never opened them. A couple of years later, I sold them for like 2 or 3 times what it cost me. So, you might find the odd bargain here and there. Yeah, they probably clamped down on that a bit though. So, who knows?
Let's open the thumbnail there. So obviously, thanks to all our viewers for this pre-Christmas episode of the Andy and Show. Next week, I can exclusively reveal that we will be joined in a double-header guest bonanza for the festive season. We'll be joined by Annie of Bad Squiddo Games and also Joey of Joey Berry fame.
Wow, it's girls against boys. Amazing.
So that should be a can't miss episode for next week.
Amazing.
Before then, on this channel, you're likely to see probably a Kings of War Wednesday episode tomorrow, looking at the new Errata for that game, which will be very exciting as well. And Mr. Remington, anything coming up on your channel? Have you got any festive plans to post any video content?
I would love to post some video content. I just need a sort of day or two on my own here, but it's struggling to get the time at the minute. Unless it's like around midnight. But yeah, no plans yet. Maybe, yeah, I don't know.
Well,
No, I mean, I kind of give everything to this show, Andy, as you know.
that is true. Okay, everybody, don't forget to check out all the links in the description. Like the video, subscribe if for some reason you haven't. Maybe you want to subscribe to Remington as well. The link's in the description. Don't forget to follow on Twitter, join the Facebook group, the Discord server, where you can post pictures of your painted miniatures in there for us to analyse, and then maybe we'll be mean to them if we zoom in and there's a stray strand of hair on there that you couldn't see with the naked eye. We might point that out. And don't forget to check out all the various fundraising sources as well. If you want to keep this channel afloat during these dark, turbulent times and allow us to act as the beacon of light out there in the stormy hobby seas that you're trying to navigate, then why not become a patron like all the people that were being thanked throughout the show across the bottom of the screen, and now who will also be personally thanked with my voice, just to let them know how extra special they are. So, Raccoon, Evan, David, Cedar, Tim, John, Simon, Rushi, Bliss, Brad, and Guy. What a fantastic bunch of people. Wouldn't you like to be part of that exclusive club? Of course you would. So, Mr. Remington, would you like to issue a parting festive message to the masses?
Stay safe and yeah, enjoy the time with your family. And that's it, man. I'm starting to feel the effects of this booster jab.
Well, everybody, stay safe, be kind during the festive season, and enjoy it as best you can. All that remains to be said then is Merry Christmas out there, whatever you are.
Remcon.
It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about